Today, Shankaracharya's appearance day. Did you read Srila Bharati Maharaj? Interesting what he told. I never heard the story of the alligator and his sannyas. Did you? Yeah. Jai Suparikar, Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari, Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Jiu Ki Jai, Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Jiu Ki Jai, Jai Nithalila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Ashtatara Sata Shri Shila A.C. Bhakti-vedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitya-lila Pravishta, Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Ashtatara Sata Sri Srila Bhakti-vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Ashtatara Sata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Ashtatara Sata Sri Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa, Ashtatara Sata Sri Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Maha Bhagavat Srila Gorakishara Das Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Srila Sachidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Vaishnava Sarvabhaum Shri Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Gaudiya Vedanta Charja Baladev Vijabhushan Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Trai Ki Jai. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Jai Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath Sadago Swami Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Gaura Parshada Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Siko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Antaradvip Mayapur Simanta Dweep, Godrum Dweep, Madhya Dweep, Kola Dweep, Ritu Dweep, Janu Dweep, Moda Druma Dweep, Ruda Atmaka, Shri Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Purushottam Kshetra Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Dvadashavanatmaka Shri Braj Mandala Dham Ki Jai. Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Radha Gopinath Radha Madan Mohan Jiu Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Radha Shyama Sundar Radha Raman Radha Damodar Jiu Ki Jai. Jai Shrimati Lalita Vishaka Adi Ashta Sakhi Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Manjari Rati Manjari Ananga Manjari Adi Manjari Vrinda Ki Jai. Needs to be louder or it's turned off or something. Adi Manjari Adi Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. Shrimati Brinda Devi Ki Jai. Shrimati Purnamasi Yogamaya Devi Ki Jai. Shri Gopi Swar Mahadev Ki Jai. Sarva Bhishta Pradata Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. It's a little too loud now. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Jiu Ki Jai. Bhakti Vigna Vinashana Shri Nrsinga Dev Ki Jai. Bhakta Pravara Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Charu Dham Charu Sampradaya Charu Acharya Ki. Too much trouble. चारों आचार्य की जय। आकर मत राज श्री चैतन्य मत की जय और अनन्य शाखा मत समूह की जय। श्री विश्व वैष्णव राज सभा की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। त्रिभुवन पावन हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। त्रिभुवन मंगल हरि नाम प्रभु की जय। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। सचिनंदन गौर हरि की जय। श्री नित्यानंद महाजन की जय। श्री पंच तत्व की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। जय श्री श्री निताय गौर प्रेम आनंदी। हरि हरि बोल। वंदेहम श्री गुरु श्री जुतः पदकमलम श्री गुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्री रूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितंश्च। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पश्चाच्चादेशतारिणे। नमो विष्णुपदाय राधिकायै प्रियात्मने श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति वेदांत नारायणीति नामने। श्री कृष्ण लीला कथने सुदक्षम औदार्य माधुर्य गुणैश्च युक्तं वरं वरेण्यं पुरुषं महान्तं नारायणं तं शिरसा नमामि। नमो विष्णुपदाय आचार्य सिंहरूपिणे श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशवेति नामने। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वतीति नामने। श्री वासवानवि देवी दायताय कृपाब्दाये कृष्ण संबंध विज्ञान दायने प्रभवे नमः। मधुर्य उज्ज्वल प्रेमाद्या श्री रूपानुग भक्तिदा श्री गौर करुणा शक्ति विग्रहाय नमोस्तुते। नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दीनतारणे रूपानुग विरुद्धाप सिद्धांत ध्वंतहारणे। नमो गौर किशोराय साक्षात् वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलम्बर सांबुधे पदाम्बुजाय ते नमः। नमो भक्ति विनोदाय सच्चिदानंद नामने गौर शक्ति स्वरूपाय रूपानुगवराय ते। गौराविर्भाव भूमेस्त्वं निर्देष्ट सज्जन प्रिय वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्नि गौरातिशे नमः। नित्यानन्दं नमस्तुभ्यं प्रेमानंद प्रदायने कलौ कल्मषनाशाय जानवापतये नमः। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तवतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। Jayatam Suruto Pangor Mama Mandamatergati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpa Dhrumadha Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prestali Bhisevyamano Smarami Shiman Rasarasaram Bhivam Shiva Tatakstidaha Karshan Venu Swanair Gopir Gopinata Shri Estunaha Brindai Tulsi Debai Priyaye Keshavasya Ja Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Kartals. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna. Oh, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Guru Parampara, Guru Parampara, Parampara, Guru Parampara. Jaya Nitai, Jaya Gaur, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Gaur. Jaya Nitai, Jaya Gaur, Jaya Nitai, Jaya Gaur. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Haribo. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Shri Shri Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Haribo. Just a few words before we begin our class on Bhakti-tattva-viveka. Today is the appearance day of Sri Shankar Acharya, and I wanted to read the commentary, or rather the short talk that Srila Bhakti Bharati Goswami Maharaj made on this blessed divine personality who is none other than Lord Shiva himself. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams, my Shraddha Pushpanjali, at the lotus feet of my most worshipable, beloved Gurudev, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Ashtatara Sata Sri Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. Then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs. Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Ashtatarasata Sri Shila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj and Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Ashtatarasata Sri Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I offer my Dandavat pranams at the lotus feet of all my Sri Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga, my Siksha Guru Varga, and I offer my Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas and to all the Vaishnavis. So today is a special day. It is the appearance day of Shankaracharya, who is Lord Shiva himself. So Lord Shiva is one of our topmost gurus. So Shankaracharya is directly Lord Shiva. Now the scriptures confirm that in the age of Kali, Lord Shiva will appear in a Brahmin family and preach the philosophy of Mayavad, which states that the Supreme Lord, the living entities, and the cosmic manifestation are all transformations of illusory energy. This is the statement in the Shastras. This is from the Padma Purana Uttarakanda. Mayavadam asach chastram prachannam bodham uchyate mayaiva vihitam devi kalo brahmana murtina. Lord Shiva informed the goddess Durga, who is the superintendent of the material world. He told that in the age of Kali, I take the form of a Brahmana, and I explain the Vedas through false scriptures in an atheistic way, similar to Buddhist philosophy. So Shankaracharya was born in Kerala, in a place known as Kaladi. Once, when he was very young, while bathing in a river, a crocodile caught hold of him, just as a pretext. Then, when his mother witnessed that a crocodile had caught her only son, she began to cry. Then Shankaracharya told her, "Only if you permit me to accept sannyas, then the crocodile will leave me." So having no other alternative, his mother conceded, and then he took sannyas. So Shankaracharya, I heard it was like at the age of 11, something like that, 11 years of age, that he took sannyas. He didn't stay in this material world very long, Sri Shankaracharya, but he had a very powerful effect because he's Lord Shiva. And one other thing should be mentioned. We should understand what was the main reason why the Supreme Lord ordered Lord Shiva to take this form of a Brahmana and incarnate in the material world and mislead all the atheistic people that have the atheistic tendency, to mislead them away from Vedic and from the Vedas, from the true conclusive truths of the Vedas. So why did Lord Narayan give this instruction to Lord Shiva? This is very interesting and very necessary understanding. Okay, tell.
It's my fault.
It's your what?
My fault.
Your thought.
Yes, I'm not sure exactly. But I think Krishna, he wants some demonic people to was away from his Krishna consciousness, because they can fulfill his material desire to use Vedic, use mantras and something.
Yeah. Yes. So, Kali Yuga is a very dangerous time. Very dangerous time. And in Kali Yuga there are so many bogus philosophies. But one thing is very important, that the Supreme Lord, He has promised that whenever and wherever the decline in Dharma is there, and rising up of Adharma, then He will come. So, prior to Lord Shiva taking the form of Shankaracharya, the Supreme Lord Vishnu himself took a form of Lord Buddha and appeared within this world. He is one of the 10 avatars. Vishnu Buddha. But why did he come? Well, you know, in the course of time in the Kali Yuga, the various persons who have demonic and atheistic tendencies, they began to misuse the statements in the Vedas, which are giving, in various places, they are giving some authorization for performing animal sacrifices. You see, that is a system given in the Vedas. But of course, that's a detailed subject matter, because that was in a particular yuga. And in that particular yuga, the process of Vedic yajna, Vedic sacrifice, was the yuga dharma, like this. But in course of time, as Kali Yuga degraded, then these unscrupulous persons, they began to misuse the statements of the Vedic Shastras, and just begin to, on the basis of their misinterpretation, they began to indiscriminately just kill animals for eating them. This was going on very, very extensively. So, Lord Vishnu took the form of Lord Buddha. And in order to stop this killing of the innocent animals, in massive killing of the innocent animals, he used a particular approach. First of all, he told all of them that don't believe the Vedas. He denied the Vedas, you see. Saying, don't believe the Vedas, don't follow the Vedas, only follow me. And what did he tell? He told ahimsa, non-violence. Do not commit violence against the animals. Against anyone, against any living entity. This is one of the foundational tenets of Buddhism, which is one of the tenets of Sanatana Dharma, to be non-violent. So, because he was very powerful, so therefore, and because he's Lord Vishnu himself, therefore Buddhism took root. But the Vedic system and the followers of the Vedas became overwhelmed by the spread of Buddhism. And therefore, the following of Sanatana Dharma based upon Vedic knowledge, Vedic scriptures, it began to recede into the background, and in the foreground came Buddhism. Buddhism was manifested everywhere, not just in India, we know also in outlying areas. But it originated here, in India. So this approach of this Vishnu Buddha, he preached a particular type of a philosophy. But later, there was another so-called Buddha who appeared, and this is explained clearly by our Param Gurudev Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj in his book Mayavad Ki Jivani in Hindi, which means the life history of Mayavadism. And then later it was re-edited in English and given a different title for being able to sell it through bookshops and so forth. And it was called Beyond Nirvana. Because Nirvana became very popular in the West. Nirvana, even there was a rock band, very, very famous, Nirvana. So the youth, general mass of people became attracted to Buddhism. But there was a Buddhist, so-called Buddha, who also appeared later on, and he appeared in Nepal. And his name was Shakya Singha Buddha. But later, he went to the same place where Lord Buddha stayed, which is Gaya. Right, Gaya. And he did his meditations there. But this Buddha, he was not giving the philosophy of Vedic knowledge, nor was he in the same line as the Vishnu Buddha. But now he began to preach a kind of nihilism. Nihilism means that the ultimate truth is that everything is void. There is no meaning. Everything is void. That is called Shunyavad, zero. The philosophy of nothingness. So, in the modern era of this Kali Yuga, this type of Buddhism spread everywhere. But again, Lord Shiva, why did he appear? And why was he instructed to preach this other type of covered Buddhism? You see. That was for the purpose of, first of all, defeating Buddhism. To defeat Buddhism and to drive out Buddhism from the holy area of Bharatvarsha, the place of Sanatana Dharma. And he also, the objective, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in the Jaiva Dharma, that actually Lord Shiva, as Shankaracharya, did a very great service for Vaishnavism. And what was that? He separated out all of these very devious, dishonest, atheistic persons. He separated them out. They became attracted to his preaching because he was Shankaracharya was preaching what is called Mayavad. Mayavadism, meaning that everything is illusion. All the forms that you see is Maya, just illusion. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mitya. Brahma means the absolute truth, but his definition of Brahma is the supreme absolute conscious entity who is no form, no color, no qualities, no variegatedness, no pastimes, no activities, just Brahma, impersonal Brahma. So he established that the impersonal Brahma is the absolute truth. And actually all living entities who now have a temporary material body and so forth, they're actually, this is illusion. This is not real. There's no such thing as Shakti or energy. Mayavadis do not believe that there's anything called energy or Shakti. If you hear a Mayavadi saying, oh, energy, energy, then he's a bogus Mayavadi. He doesn't understand. Because according to Mayavad philosophy, the absolute truth is the only thing that's existing. There is no energy. It's only Brahma. Sarvam kalv idam Brahma. Only Brahma exists, and that's all. So everything that we see, according to the Brahmavadi, Mayavadis, is that this is actually just an illusion. all of these forms and shapes, individuals, is an illusion, because all of us who are conscious individual living entities, this individuality is actually just an illusion. And when someone penetrates through the illusion, then they can realize that in actuality there is no individuality, and everyone is Brahma, all merged in this one absolute being, Brahma. This is Mayavadism. Therefore, Mayavadism also denies the existence of the absolute Brahma having form, having qualities, etc., etc. You see. So, because Lord Shiva is very, very powerful, look, he took sannyas at 10 or 11 years of age, traveled and completely defeated Buddhism, drove Buddhism outside of India. So he cleared the pathway for what? Again, instituting the Vedas as the absolute authority. The Sanskrit Vedas as the absolute authority. He re-established the Vedas, you see. And this is a very great service. But as he was doing that, he also simultaneously drew out, attracted the atheistic tendency persons. And what was that contribution? Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, this enabled the 4 Vaishnava acharyas to now come into this world and to establish these 4 Vaishnava sampradayas. That's what occurred as a result. The 4 Vaishnava sampradayas were established, and each one of the acharyas wrote their commentary on Vedanta Sutra, which is a personalistic commentary. Is a personal commentary on Vedanta Sutra, not impersonal. All are personal, but the commentary of Shankaracharya was impersonal. Sharirak Bhashya. So what did our 4 Vaishnava acharyas do? They completely defeated, they wrote books such as Mayavad Shata Dushani, written by Sri Madhvacharya, which means the 100 faults of Mayavad philosophy. Adjust that so it doesn't squeal. Adjust so it doesn't squeal. If I'm saying loudly like this, okay, now you adjusted it. So, yeah. So the 4 Vaishnava acharyas, all of them, they defeated Mayavad philosophy completely. Did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also? Absolutely. He completely defeated Mayavadism. But even though Lord Shiva had accepted a thankless task, it was not an easy thing to do. And that's why he was called upon by the Supreme Lord, because Lord Shiva does things that no one else can do. So Lord Shiva took this upon himself to misguide and mislead all of the atheistic tendency persons. And therefore, he protected the pathway of the 4 Vaishnava acharyas, and he sorted them out. He separated them out so that they would not enter. Why? Because if they would enter, then they would utilize the philosophy to support all of their atheism, and gradually they would degrade the whole sampradaya. So in this way, they Lord Shankaracharya, Lord Shiva, prepared the pathway to introduce Vaishnavism. This is the main understanding and the main contribution of Sri Shankaracharya. Yes, Maharaj. Preach into the microphone so that the people online can also hear.
One comment on the Vedic sacrifices that were going on. As Kali Yuga progressed, then the Brahmins who were doing these sacrifices lost the powers of their mantras, which would turn the animals being sacrificed. They were generally older and even diseased animals, and they would the power of their mantras would give them a youthful form. That was one comment about that. And also my other comment was that, and you mentioned it, that Buddhism was a form of atheism, because Buddha said, don't accept the Vedas, God doesn't exist, accept me. But he tricked them because he was a avatar of Vishnu, as you explained. And so it was covered atheism.
Yeah, that point, thank you for bringing it up. I was going to say it, but then I lost it in the train of thought that this is how our Srila Prabhupada explains that Lord Buddha, he tricked everyone. He performed some sleight of hand with the general population. He tricked them because he told them, don't follow the Vedas, only follow me. And they followed that. But because he's Vishnu, who is the source of all the Vedic knowledge and the absolute truth, therefore, without them knowing it, he tricked them into following himself, the absolute authority of all the Vedas. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Bharati Maharaj continues. At that time, the doctrine of Buddhism was widespread. At that time when Shankaracharya took birth, the doctrine of Buddhism was widespread. So the masses the masses neither believed in the demigods or the demigoddesses, nor did they believe in the authority of the Vedas. Now, although Buddha denied the authority of the Vedas, he indirectly preached a couple of Vedic injunctions, such as the promotion of non-violence. And there were people who were engaging in slaughtering animals for sense pleasure. So in the name of Vedic sacrifices, and by misrepresenting certain portions of the Vedas. And also in the Atharva Veda, there is information on the performance of avicharika kriya, which means inconsiderate actions, such as what? Such as the knowledge to kill, or how to disturb, or how to make people fall sick, and so on. This was called avicharika kriya, inconsiderate actions. So then Srila Bharati Maharaj says, in fact, until the present day, the Anaryas, they follow these tactics. What is an Anarya? It means one who's not Arya. For example, there are mantras to create fire that is devoid of any warmth, such that no matter how much you boil sugarcane juice, jaggery will not be formed. They have mantras that can make a fire, but it has no warmth. So in a note here, it says Arya, it means those engaged in progressive realization of God. That's called Arya. So Aryan society means those who are engaging in the progressive process in human form of life to realize God. And those who practice non-violence, truthfulness, and purity, they're in that category, Arya. But Anarya refers to those who do the opposite. So to stop such widespread atrocious acts under the name of Vedic injunctions, Buddha denied the authority of the Vedas, and he preached that there is no necessity of following the Vedas. Now Shankaracharya, however, supported the Vedas. When Shankaracharya, who is Lord Shiva himself, the presiding deity of the mode of ignorance, when he appeared, he simply preached, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mitya, Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. This means, Brahman is the only truth, and the world is unreal. Jagan Mitya. Mitya means false, unreal. And he said there is ultimately no difference between Brahman and the individual Jiva. That's what he preached. Now, Srila Bharati Maharaj is showing how Lord Shiva, as Shankaracharya, showed many symptoms of being a Vaishnava. You see? So Shankaracharya, he also accomplished an important task of reinstituting deity worship, which Buddha, by the strength of his royal backing, he had curtailed. All throughout India, Buddha had stopped the worship of deities. So by this action, which action? Reinstituting deity worship. So he indirectly asserted that deity worship is necessary and it is beneficial for the practitioner. So if one does not engage in deity worship, then who will be the object of worship? So he also asserted that one needs an object to perform sadhana. Hence, a form of Brahman is required. Therefore, for the benefit of the practitioner, he said to imagine a form of Brahman. And he rescued the deity of Badrinath. You know that? In Badrinarayan ashram, that deity of Badrinath was thrown into the Alakananda river where the Buddhists had drowned the deity. So he rescued the deity from there, and then he arranged for his worship. He preached according to the necessity of time. As a result of his preaching, the stronghold of Buddhism began to wane. Then he also sang, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam, Bhaja Mudhamate. O foolish ones, Mudha. O foolish ones, just worship Govinda, just worship Govinda, just worship Govinda. You know where I heard that the first time? It's firmly ingrained in my memory banks. I heard it about 2 or 3 weeks after I joined the temple in Detroit. And now devotees were converging on Detroit to make their way to New Vrindavan, 1970, where the now well-known incident took place of the 4 brand new sannyasis preaching a kind of Mayavadism there. But in the temple, because I was brand new, and I'm seeing all these devotees coming from here, there, and one of them was Nari Narayan Vishvakarma Das. So those who know him, all of us know him quite well, because we're all connected with Los Angeles, the LA Temple, Southern California, and Rishabdev and his wife. So we know Nari Narayan. But Nari Narayan had a very interesting voice tonation. So I just remember like going to the Bhagavatam class. This was like one of the first, couple of weeks. Bhagavatam class in the morning. And that day, then suddenly this person who I hadn't met or seen before was there. And that person was giving the Bhagavatam class. And all I can remember is hearing him say, more than once, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Mudhamate. So he was reciting this mantra that we just heard, that was recited by Shankaracharya. Why did he say that? Because our Srila Prabhupada pointed this out, that this was one of the symptoms that actually Lord Shiva, though he might have told about the oneness of Jiva and Brahman and all of that, but in actuality, at the end of his life, what did he preach? He preached to all of his so-called followers, He said, you fools, you rascals, you are mudhas. You think that you will be saved at the time of death by your grammatical word jugglery of Sanskrit? No! Just worship Govinda, worship Govinda, worship Govinda, you fools and rascals. But did they follow what he told? This was right before he passed from this world. Did they follow? No, they didn't follow. They made up an excuse. Oh, he was not in his right state of mind. He was just about to leave this world, like that. So they're cheaters. Now, so he said, Srila Bharti Maharaj says, the fact that he sang that song, Bhaja Govindam, this is also evidence that he favored Vaishnava Dharma. And even though externally he advocated that the Lord does not have an eternal form. And he also glorified Mother Ganga by composing a very beautiful stava, which is Devi Sureshwari Bhagavati Gange. Now, in Sri Shailam, there is a Shiva temple. But the temple belonging to his Shakti, Brahmaramba, in the same vicinity, it is more prominent. Now one day, by Shankaracharya's desire, he was taken by a Kapalika. A Kapalika means a follower of a tribal sect. And they are comprised of religious fanatics. And they believe in human sacrifice to Devi or to Shakti. So, Shankaracharya, by his desire, he was being taken by this Kapalika to this, through the forest in that area, to be offered in sacrifice. Now at that time, Shankaracharya remembered his disciples who suddenly appeared there just by his remembering them. And they requested the Kapalika to release their guru, but he did not consent, this Kapalika. He said, no, I will offer him in sacrifice. So in Sri Vishnu Shodasha Nama Stotra, it is said, Kanane Narashringam Cha. Think of Vishnu as Nrsimha while in the forest. So Sri Shankaracharya advised his disciples to take shelter of Nrsimhadev. And saying this, Shankaracharya recited a Nrsimha stava and his disciples followed suit. As a result, Lord Nrsimha appeared and killed the Kapalika. So to commemorate this incident, although it is a Shiva temple, to this day, the Nrsimha stava is sung there daily. This custom was followed even when I visited that temple in Sri Shailam. But nowadays, though, it is no longer sung. Instead, an audio recording of that stava is played. Then, another point is his service to Lord Jagannath, Shankaracharya. In the Jagannath temple in Puri, Shankaracharya established the place where the Upala Bhoga is offered to Lord Jagannath, not the Rajbhog. So in honor of this, of what he established, every day Mahaprasad from the Jagannath temple is sent to his mutt via a bihangi. That's a carrier with a basket hanging from each end of a long stick. Now some claim that the Jagannath Ashtakam was also composed by Shankaracharya himself. That's written in our songbook. So there he has written, Rama Shambhu Brahma Mara Patigane Sharchita Pado. This means that his lotus feet are worshipped by great personalities such as Lakshmi, Shiva, Brahma, Indra, and Ganesh. And he also mentioned Navayache Rajyam. I don't desire sovereignty. So may Jagannatha Swami kindly enter the pathway of my vision. Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me. Now for someone who composed such wonderful prayers, how can we attribute to him things like Jivo Brahmaiva Napara, that Brahman is the only truth, the world is unreal, and there is ultimately no difference between Brahman and the individual self. So, by external consideration, why did Shankaracharya, an advocate of the formless Brahman, why did he establish a Bhog Mandap for Jagannath? So oftentimes, here's a very nice point that he's making here. Oftentimes, one's internal moods cannot be judged by external behavior. Only the intimate followers, they can perceive the internal moods Otherwise, only what is called sthul vichar, the apparent external meaning, it becomes prominent. If someone cannot understand the deep hidden internal reasons and meaning, then the external, the sthul vichar, it becomes prominent. So for this reason, we don't accept the Shankarites, who take only the external meaning of Shankaracharya's teachings and not the shukshma vichar, the subtle internal meaning. So now is the last, the end of this short speech, how Shankaracharya disappeared. Now eventually, the Buddhists became so vindictive towards Shankaracharya because he kicked Buddhism out of India. So they came up with an idea to conduct a debate in Tibet on the condition that the loser of the debate would immolate himself. That means jump into fire. Now the Buddhists could not defeat Shankaracharya. They could not. However, still they eventually burned him. And why was that? Because it was time for Lord Shiva to wind up that pastime of being Shankaracharya. So he allowed this to take place. So there are 4 places that Shankaracharya allotted to each of his 4 chief disciples in India. 4 places. Who established the 4 famous mats in India. First one, Jyotir Mat, is in Uttarakhand. Then Govardhan Mat is in Puri. We hear that. We go by the Govardhan Mat very often. Then the Sharada Mat is in Gujarat, and the Sringeri Mat is in Karnataka. Then he also initiated the celebration of Kumbha. In those days, many people would congregate to honor the Kumbha. So originally the Kumbha was held at various locations, but eventually 4 places were finalized: Haridwar, Allahabad, Ujjain, and Nasik. That's the end of this article. Do you know the meaning of Kumbha? Huh? Kumbha. You don't know the meaning? Kumbha Mela. Do you know the meaning of Kumbha Mela? Yeah? What is Kumbha Mela? Huh? The what? Yeah, it's a festival, but what festival of what? It's a festival of Kumbha. Kumbha means pot. Kumbha means pot. So why is it called Kumbha Mela? What's the significance of that pot? Do you know? I forgot. I think it's Lord Vishnu, some nectar in that pot. Do you remember what it is? Garuda.
4 places. That's one drop.
Is this the same one that was dropped in Bhubaneswar? The same nectar drop from the pot?
Also the Kaliyagad.
At which?
Kaliyagad.
Kaliyagad. Ah.
One drop, but there in that place.
Acha, okay.
The pot was same.
Ah.
It's a whole story how he had to bring that nectar for his mother.
Ah.
For his mother's co-wife who had cheated her to get her from being a servant.
Ah.
His co-wife. He had to bring that nectar.
Okay.
He had to drop some. 4 different places.
Acha. Okay. Yeah. But I know because Bindu Sarovara is in Bhubaneswar. Bindu means drop. So one drop was also dropped there. That's why it's called Bindu Sarovara. Okay, now we're going to continue. Just first of all, I'm going to just check the calendar before I start. So on
What's the name of
what? Pot. You're asking what is a pot?
Yeah, I mean it's a road.
Road?
He
No. Path. That's called pata. P-A-T-H-A. No. Kumbha doesn't mean road. It means pot. P-O-T. Pot. A cooking pot. A clay pot. Okay. So on our Vaishnava calendar, it is also the disappearance day of Srila Bhakti Vilas Kabastanavi Maharaj. So I'm paying my obeisances to him. I don't want to take further time to go into that, but what I personally do on these days is I read about each one of these personalities who were disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and they're glorified in Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj's book, My Beloved Masters. Just looking at the calendar for next week, on Tuesday, what is it today? May 12th, yeah. So on Tuesday is the end of Keshava Vrat. Then on Wednesday is Janu Saptami, Sri Janavi Puja, meaning puja of the Janavi Ganga. So Tuesday and Thursday, they don't have. We will be having class on Tuesday and Thursday, and then on Friday is the appearance day of Janava Devi, the appearance day of Sita Devi, and the disappearance day of Sri Madhu Pandit. And then on Sunday is Mohini Ekadasi. So next week we will have Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday as usual. And then the next week on the 21st, Tuesday, Prasad at Gopinath Gaudiya Mutt. I don't know what for, but it has some kind of purpose that they're going to be serving Prasad at Gopinath Gaudiya Mutt. And the other thing is Sri Bhakti Sarvasva Govinda Maharaj, who we have had his darshan. Bhakti Sarvasva Govinda Maharaj, his appearance day. So that's on Tuesday of next week. The week after. No, next week. And guess what Wednesday is? Nishringa Chaturdasi. So we are definitely switching the class from Tuesday to Wednesday to accommodate Sri Nishringa Chaturdasi. Big day. And we will certainly have to go to the lotus feet of Lord Nrsingadev on that day. So we'll discuss the best strategy for that. We could do what we did last time. We went there, and then we came back, and we had class here. So then on Thursday, quite a big day. Appearance day of Madhavendra Puripad, appearance day of Sri Srinivasacharya, disappearance day of Sri Parameshwari Thakur, and Buddha Purnima. Yes, that means the appearance day of Lord Buddha. So that's on Thursday of that week. Then Bhakti Saranga Goswami Maharaj is on Friday, and then on Sunday of that week is Sri Nivananda Seva Tirtha Prabhu, one of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And then the last Tuesday, 28th of May, is the disappearance day of Sri Ramananda Roy. And then we move into June, so I'm not going to start discussing that, but that's what we have coming up now in the next basically 2.5 weeks before the end of May. So now we're continuing for a short time, not too short, we have some time, of Chapter 2 of Bhakti-tattva-viveka. Are you ready to hear Bhakti-tattva? Bhakti-tattva. Ochan Vajni. Bhakti-tattva. Very, very important. So chapter 2 out of the 4 chapters of this small book is titled An Analysis of the Semblance of Bhakti. Not of Bhakti, but of the semblance of Bhakti, which is called Bhakti-tattva-viveka. So, he begins by composing a verse. Bhaktivinoda Thakur begins this chapter by composing a verse. Yad bhakti-abhasa leshopi dadati palam uttamam tam ananda nidhim Krishna chaitanyam samupasmahe. We worship Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who is an ocean of transcendental bliss, and even a faint trace of devotion unto him yields the highest result. So here he said, Yad bhakti-abhasa leshopi. That means a tiny little fragment, a faint trace of what? Bhakti-abhas. Not pure bhakti. Even a faint trace of Bhakti-abhas can yield the highest result. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an ocean of transcendental bliss. Now, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is telling, my dear devotees, in the previous chapter, we discussed the intrinsic nature, the swarup, and also the extrinsic characteristics, the tatastha lakshana of bhakti. Now in this chapter we will discuss bhakti-abhas, which is the semblance of devotion. We have already discussed a little about bhakti-abhas while reviewing the tatastha lakshana of bhakti. And indeed, Bhakti-abhas is actually included within the category of the tatastha lakshana of bhakti. But since it is not really suitable for the semblance of devotion to be thoroughly analyzed in a section where both the intrinsic nature and the extrinsic characteristics of bhakti are being described, so it has become necessary to write a separate chapter on the topic of Bhakti-abhas. We hope that this article will serve to further clarify the subject matter of the previous chapter. It has already been stated that the natural and the unadulterated endeavor of the infinitesimal consciousness, that is the jiva, towards the complete consciousness, Krishna. It has already been stated that the natural and the unadulterated endeavor of the infinitesimal consciousness, the jiva, towards the complete consciousness, Krishna, is called bhakti. Now, jivas, they are situated in 2 stages. The liberated stage and the conditioned stage. In the liberated stage, the living entity is free from all varieties of material relationships and is situated in his pure constitutional position. So in such a stage, the jiva remains free from any material designation, and hence within him there is no opportunity for the marginal characteristics of bhakti to exist. Yes. So we should understand this point. When the living entity is in his liberated stage, he's completely free from all varieties of any type of material relationship. He is situated in his pure constitutional position. So in such a stage, the jiva remains free from any material designation. And hence within him, there is no opportunity at all for the marginal characteristics of bhakti to exist. Now in the conditioned stage, the jiva forgets his constitutional identity Why? Why does the jiva in the conditioned stage forget his constitutional identity? Because his spiritual intelligence, it is diluted by the coverings of the subtle and the gross bodies. In this stage, the jiva acquires various material designations. So when a mirror is free from dust, then it gives a clear reflection of any object. But when it is covered with dust, it does not give a clear reflection. In such a condition, we say that the mirror has acquired a designation. So when something covers the nature or the swabhav of an object, then that covering is called the object's designation. So material nature covers the pure constitutional nature of the jiva. And that covering is the jiva's designation. So it is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, very important quotation, 11th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 37, Bhayam dvitiya binivesha tasyad ishada petasya viparyayo ashmati tanmayayato buddha abhajetam bhaktyayka yesham gurudeva tatma. Now the jiva's innate tendency of unalloyed devotion towards the complete consciousness, Bhagavan Sri Krishna, that's his innate tendency, is to have unalloyed devotion towards the complete consciousness. Because we're the incomplete and he's the complete, so it is our natural, pure consciousness, our eternal occupational duty, and it is our innate tendency to have unalloyed devotion toward Bhagavan Sri Krishna, who is the eternal complete consciousness. And this is the eternal occupational duty of the jiva. It is his nitya dharma. When the same jiva becomes opposed to Bhagavan, then he is gripped by fear, bhaya, and his intelligence is lost. Now Maya is the external potency of Bhagavan. It is called his apara shakti. Apara means not para. It means inferior, not superior. So Maya is the external potency of Bhagavan, and it is his inferior energy. So considering the existence of this material world, which has manifested from the external potency to be an independent element from Bhagavan, the unfortunate living entity falls into material existence. So intelligent people, accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master, they engage themselves in the exclusive bhajan of the Supreme Lord Sri Hari. So now Bhaktivinoda Thakur is further explaining this verse, Bhayam dvitiya biniveshata. From the verse on the previous page, we can conclude that the living entity's absorption in the material energy, that means maya binivesha. Maya vinivesha means absorption in maya, in the material energy. So, we can conclude that this living entity's absorption, this imposes a false designation upon him. And in such an adulterated stage, the devotion of the living entity, it easily deteriorates, and it appears as bhakti abhas. Now those who desire nothing other than entrance into unalloyed devotion, they should completely cross over bhakti abhas, and they should take shelter of kevala bhakti, exclusive and uninterrupted devotion. That's what they should do. They should cross beyond bhakti abhas, and they should take exclusive shelter of kevala bhakti, which is uninterrupted devotion. For this reason, we are reviewing the topic of bhakti abhas in great detail. Why? Because it's necessary to go beyond Bhakti Abhas. So now Bhakti Vinod Thakur is saying, it's necessary to go beyond this. So for that reason now, we're going to review the topic of Bhakti Abhas in great detail, because it's necessary to know this. This in-depth analysis of the semblance of devotion, oh, this is extremely confidential. Just to do an in-depth analysis of this Bhakti Abhas, the semblance of devotion, it's extremely confidential. And only intimate devotees are qualified to hear it. So that's why in the beginning of the preaching mission, it is not told to the general mass of devotees. They cannot understand. Why is this? Why is it that only intimate devotees are qualified to hear it, and that this analysis of Bhakti Abhas is very confidential? This is because those who consider Bhakti Abhas to be bhakti will never be pleased upon reading this book until they become truly fortunate. I am feeling immense pleasure in presenting this topic before the intimate devotees. What did he say just now? That there's a class of devotees that they're not qualified to hear this topic. And therefore they'll never be pleased on reading this book about Bhakti Abhas. But Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, I'm feeling immense pleasure in presenting this topic before the intimate devotees. Srila Rupa Goswami has not given a separate analysis of Bhakti Abhas in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Did you know that? He's not given a separate analysis. He mentioned it, but he hasn't given a separate analysis in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Now, within the first half of the verse, Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmadya Navritam, he has given a complete, yet a hidden explanation of Bhakti Abhas. Yes. So while discussing the topic of Rati Abhas, the semblance of ecstatic spiritual emotion, in his review of the principle of Rati, then Srila Rupa Goswami has nicely explained Bhakti Abhas. I am presenting this deliberation on the semblance of devotion upon the basis of Srila Rupa Goswami's conception. Now, Bhakti Abhas, it exists prior to the stage of Shuddha Bhakti. From Bhakti Abhas, the stages of unalloyed devotion and Rati, within unalloyed devotion, these stages, from Bhakti Abhas, the stages of unalloyed devotion and Rati within unalloyed devotion, they appear in sequence from Bhakti Abhas. Srila Rupa Goswami says in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Pratibimbas tata chaya ratya baso dvidha mata. This means that there are two types of Bhakti Abhas, Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas and Chaya Bhakti Abhas. So this is the Rupa Goswami's direct statement. The difference between the two is that Pratibimba, it remains apart from the original object, and it appears as another separate entity, while Chaya is completely dependent on the original object, and from a position of proximity to it, it appears as a partial manifestation of the original object. So now he explains this further. When a tree is reflected in water, then the tree that is visible in the water is called pratibimba. That means reflection of the original tree. The reflection is never in touch with the original object. It's separate. Now, the existence of the reflection, it is due solely to the existence of the original object, but still the reflection is accepted as a separate entity. That's easy to understand. The form that appears because of the tree's blockage of the path of light, that resembles the form of the tree itself, that is called the chaya, or the shadow, right? Shadow, anyone can see. So the existence of the chaya is entirely dependent upon the original object. So Srila Jiva Goswami, he says, Tasman nirupaditvam eva rater mukya swarupatvam sopaditvam abhasatvam tattvagonya vritya pravartamanatvam iti. This means, Jiva Goswami, when bhakti is unadulterated, it is called Swarup Bhakti. That is devotion in its intrinsic state. Swarup Bhakti, unadulterated, in its intrinsic state. But when bhakti is adulterated, then it is called Bhakti Abhas. Now, Bhakti Abhas is manifested by the Gona Vritti, meaning the secondary inclination of the living entity. The living entity's intrinsic inclination is called the Mukhya Vritti. And the inclination that is obstructed or covered is called the Gona Vritti. So Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas and Chaya Bhakti Abhas are both categorized as Gona Vritti, or secondary tendencies. So when bhakti reaches its pure form, then it is completely free from the tendencies of pratibimba, reflection. And it is also completely free from chaya, shadow. At that time, only the original object itself, pure spontaneous devotion, is manifest. So now he's going to analyze Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas, and there's quite a very in-depth analysis here. And after that, he's going to analyze Chaya Bhakti Abhas. Yes. So those two analyses are now going to be heard by us fortunate jivas. So, first, Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas. What does Pratibimba mean? Reflection. So, the semblance of devotion known as Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas, that can be divided into three categories. There's three types of Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas. Number one, Nirvishesh Jnana Vritta Bhakti Abhas. Number two, Bahir Mukha Karma Vritta Bhakti Abhas. And number three, Viparitavastu Bhakti Buddhi Janata Bhakti Abhas. Okay, so he's going to explain each one of these. The first one, Nirvishesh Jnana Vritta Bhakti Abhas. This is the state in which bhakti remains hidden by a covering of impersonal knowledge, nirvishesh jnana. At that time, a curtain of impersonal knowledge exists between the sadhak and the Swarup Siddha Bhakti. And this curtain exists, making direct realization of bhakti in its inherent form completely impossible. So someone that has that type of Bhakti Abhas, Nirvishesh Jnana Vritta, that it is covered by impersonal knowledge, Nirvishesh Jnana. So that what happens is that curtain of impersonal knowledge exists between the sadhak and the Swarup Siddha Bhakti. So it makes the direct realization of bhakti in its inherent form impossible. And then Swarup Siddha Bhakti, So now the conception, now he analyzes this. Nirvishesh Jnana Vritta Bhakti Abhas. The conception of impersonal knowledge. What's the word? Nirvishesh Jnana. It is that within the transcendental reality, the Chit Tattva, the names, the forms, the qualities, pastimes, other attributes. It means that this impersonal knowledge It means that within transcendental reality, all these do not exist. That's the conception of impersonal knowledge. That within the Chit Tattva, names, forms, qualities, pastimes, they don't exist. So according to this philosophy, these attributes exist only in material objects, and when the jiva becomes liberated from material existence, he merges into undifferentiated Brahman. It's interesting that this topic is being brought up directly on the day of Shankaracharya's appearance, which we've already been prepared for this. So according to this philosophy, these attributes, what are they? Names, forms, qualities, pastimes. So, according to this philosophy, these attributes exist only in material objects. But when the jiva becomes liberated from material existence, he merges into undifferentiated Brahman. So no names, qualities, nothing. Wherever such impersonal knowledge exists, unalloyed devotion cannot manifest there. I remember a quote from Srila Prabhupada in his Teachings of Lord Chaitanya that I read decades ago. And he said, according to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there's only one complete disqualification for someone to attain this spiritual perfection in Krishna Prem. You know what that is? Yes, Mayavadism. To believe in Mayavad. That completely disqualifies that jiva from entering into Shuddha Bhakti. Now, wherever such impersonal knowledge exists, unalloyed devotion cannot manifest there. You can't have them both there at the same time. Impossible. So the word Krishnanushilana, which means the cultivation of devotion unto Shri Krishna, Krishnanushilanam, it is called Shuddha Bhakti. But the activities of bhakti are not possible in impersonal liberation because neither Krishna, his servant, the living entity, nor devotional endeavors are present there. So if someone believes that when the perfectional stage of liberation is achieved, then bhakti no longer exists due to the destruction of the mind and the body and the false ego, but simultaneously they continue to follow the process of bhakti to achieve such perfection, then how can their devotion to Krishna be called eternal and free from deceit? It's bogus, cheating, koitava dharma. That's what it is. And that's what modern day Hinduism is. Although most people are foolish and ignorant, but they're victims of that. So he's saying, if someone believes that when the perfectional stage of liberation is achieved, then bhakti no longer exists due to the destruction of the mind, body, and false ego. That's modern Hinduism philosophy. But they continue to follow the process of bhakti, do our puja to our different deities and demigods and all that to achieve perfection. They continue to do that, despite the fact that they believe that in the stage of liberation there is no bhakti. So then how can their so-called devotion to Krishna be called eternal? How can it be called eternal? No. And how can it be called free from deceitfulness? It is full of deceit. Such a person tries to please Krishna for the time being. And then in the end, he attempts to extinguish Krishna's existence. So in precisely the same way, the demon Vrikasur pleased Lord Shiva with his worship, and after obtaining a boon from Shiva that he could kill anyone by merely placing his hand on their head, he tried to kill Shiva himself. The devotion of such a person is deceitful and temporary, due to his ignorance of the intrinsic nature of eternally perfected devotion, Nitya Siddha Bhakti. So in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami has described the attributes of such deceitful bhakti. Listen to these two verses and the explanation. Kintu bala chamatkara kari tachchina vikshaya abhigyena subodoyam ratya basa prakirtita. Ashrama bishta nirvahi rati lakshana lakshita boga pavarga shokshyamsha vyanjaka pratibimbaka. So he's mentioned Rati Abhas and Pratibimba. Now, Rupa Goswami says here, by observing the symptoms of shedding tears and trembling in persons who desire material enjoyment and liberation, okay, whose tears are we observing? And whose trembling are we observing? Persons who desire material enjoyment and liberation. So he's saying, by observing those symptoms, it may seem that they have developed Krishna Rati, ecstatic emotion based on excessive attachment for Krishna. It seems like that. But only foolish people who are easily influenced by a show of external symptoms, they will consider such so-called Rati genuine. But those who are knowledgeable, they know it to be Rati Abhas. Such a person's trembling and shedding of tears are due to two reasons. You know what those two reasons are? Can you remember or guess? First reason is they have a hankering for impersonal liberation. And they think that by remembering Krishna, who alone can award such mukti, then they will feel great pleasure. Because they're going to get liberation. So this pleasure is the cause of their shedding tears and trembling. It is not due to spontaneous love for Krishna. The second reason for their shedding tears and trembling is happiness derived from thinking that simply by the performance of such bhakti abhas, their inner desires for material enjoyment will be easily fulfilled. Huh? How all-pervasive are these? The second one, everywhere. Everywhere. That's why you'll hear neophyte devotees saying, "Oh, pray to Krishna for me, that my sons will have his test, that he'll take his graduation test, and he'll pass it. Pray to Krishna for my son." What is this? But really, their shedding of tears and trembling is because there's a happiness derived because they're thinking, oh yes, simply by the performance of such bhakti abhas, my inner desires for material enjoyment will easily be fulfilled. That's the reason for their shedding tears. Now, here's another quote. It's continuing with the same section of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. Here's his quote. Varanasi nivasi kaschidayam vyaharan haresh charitam yati goshtyam utpulaka sinchanti gandadvayi mashrai. So, now Rupa Goswami is saying, once upon a time, in the city of Varanasi, there was a renunciant who was chanting the names of Hari in an assembly of sannyasis. And eventually he began trembling and tears started flowing from his eyes. And while chanting the holy name, he was thinking, aha! By such a simple process, I will attain impersonal liberation. Srila Rupa Goswami describes the cause of such a condition in the next two verses. Daivat sadbhakta sangena kirtanadyanusarinam praya prasanna manasam bhogo mokshadi raginam. Keshanchid dridhi bhavendo pratibimba udanshati tad bhakta hrin nabastasya tat samsarga pravavata. So here's Rupa Goswami's explanation for this sannyasi's tears starting to flow. Because he was thinking that by such a simple process I will attain impersonal liberation. Here's the meaning of these two verses. Exhibiting such trembling and shedding of tears, it is not easy. It is not easy to exhibit such trembling and shedding of tears for an impersonalist. Because knowledge and renunciation, they make the heart hard. And they also push away all the symptoms of bhakti, which is very tender by nature. Now, even though in the process of hearing, Shravanam, and in the process of kirtan, conducted by the impersonalists, the disease of the desires for sense gratification and liberation exists. But even though in that process of Shravan and Kirtan, that disease of desires for still gratification and liberation exists. Still. But they feel a little pleasure in their hearts from their performance of Shravan and Kirtan. So if at such a time, by some good fortune, they obtain the association of a pure devotee of Bhagavan, then, by the effect of that association, the bhav that has arisen like the moon in the sky of the hearts of the pure devotees is reflected even in their hearts, which are contaminated by the impersonal conception. And such an occurrence can sometimes cause a little ecstasy and shedding of tears. But when again they lack the association of such a devotee, then they deride the tears and the trembling of their own disciples as fraud or cheating. So hence, bhakti can never appear in the heart covered by impersonal knowledge. But sometimes there is the appearance of bhakti abhas. So now, he continues with the second and third types of pratibimba bhakti abhas. Second type is called bahir mukha karmavrita bhakti abhas. This means a blockage which is comprised of an external covering of fruit of activity karma. This is produced, this blockage comprised of an external covering of fruit of activity karma. It is produced by the secondary tendency, the guna vritti of bhakti. It is as if a curtain of fruit of activity is present between the relisher and the living entity. And that which is to be relished, bhakti, there's a curtain. So this curtain covers the intrinsic nature of bhakti. Now, pursuing the path of mystic yoga and strictly adhering to the occupational duties that are corresponding to one's caste and one's stage of life, varnashram dharma, they are both classified as karma. What's classified as karma? Mystic yoga and varnashram dharma, strictly adhering to your occupational duties. Okay? These are both classified as karma, and this is talking about karma vrita, your bhakti abhas being covered by karma, tendency of karma, bahirmukha. Now karma is of two types. Nitya karma, the activities that are performed regularly, and then naimitic karma, activities that are performed occasionally. All actions that result in piety, they are considered karma. Fruit of activity. They result in piety. A detailed explanation of karma here would greatly enlarge this presentation. Those who specifically want to understand the concept of karma may read the initial pages of my book, Sri Chaitanya Sikshamritam. Now, the process of karma that is delineated in the books of the Smarta Brahmana, the books of the Smarta Brahmanas, that type of karma is all superficial activity. All superficial. Activities such as Sandhya Vandana, the prayers to be recited daily at dusk, that are suitable for the proper execution of one's varnashram duties, and that are mentioned in the books of the Smartas. They are called Nitya Karma, daily routine activities. Now the Smartas, they consider the performance of these daily activities to be bhakti. Yet, an in-depth review of these activities will reveal that they are superficial. So the symptoms of bhakti that are visible in them, they are due merely to pratibimba bhakti abhas and not to real bhakti. This is because the desired fruit of these activities is either the attainment of impersonal liberation or the pleasures of this world or the heavenly worlds. Some people consider the limbs of bhakti, such as hearing and chanting, to be karma, and the hearing and chanting of the karma yoga process to be bhakti. Some people consider that. Did you hear that? What do some people consider? The limbs of bhakti, Shravanam Kirtanam. They consider that to be karma. And then they also consider hearing and chanting of the karma yoga process, such as Shravanam and Kirtanam, to be bhakti. So these misconceptions, they are caused by their ignorance of the proper philosophical conception. So although externally there appear to be many similarities between the process of karma yoga and of sadhana bhakti, these are external similarities. There exists a fundamental difference between the two. What is that? What is the fundamental difference between these two? Misconceptions, the proper philosophical conception. Externally, they appear to be many similarities between the processes of karma yoga and sadhana bhakti. But there is a fundamental difference between the two. And what is that? Whatever action is performed to attain mundane happiness in this world or in the heavenly worlds, it is called karma. Any action to attain happiness, mundane pleasure in this world or in the heavenly, that's called karma. This happiness is classified as either sense gratification or as relief from suffering in the form of impersonal liberation. It's also karma, because it's sense gratification, to relieve myself from suffering. Now, on the other hand, bhakti is the action that is performed with absorption in those sentiments which only help to increase our natural inborn inclination for love of Krishna, and where the performer has no other desire whatsoever. That's bhakti. So despite accruing some other fruits by the performance of any of such activity, then the performer considers those fruits to be very insignificant. Yes. Those acts which nourish unalloyed devotion are also considered bhakti, because bhakti alone is the mother of bhakti. What is that? The acts which nourish unalloyed devotion are also considered bhakti, because why? Because bhakti alone is the mother of bhakti. The processes of jnana and karma can never be capable of producing bhakti. My dear intimate devotees, you cannot satisfy the people engaged in gross activities by presenting before them this subtle difference between karma yoga and bhakti. You cannot satisfy those people. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is telling us. They cannot understand this subtle difference between karma yoga and bhakti. Only when their faith in the processes of karma and jnana dwindles by the accumulation of heaps of pious activities and by the effect of association with pure devotees of Bhagavan, then will such a seedling of undeveloped bhakti appear in their hearts in the form of faith. I'm reading that again. Only when these persons' faith in the processes of karma and jnana dwindles by the accumulation of heaps of pious activities, and by the effect of the association with pure devotees of Bhagavan, will the seedling of undeveloped bhakti appear in their hearts in the form of faith. So unless in possession of such faith, no one can understand the subtle difference between karma yoga and bhakti. So don't try to force it on someone who is completely absorbed in the misconception that karma yoga and bhakti are the same thing. They won't be able to understand. Does Krishna not also say that in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita? What does he say? Meaning? Yeah. Yes. And of the ignorant, right. This is interesting, though, that through Bhakti Abhas and so forth, their faith in these processes of karma and jnana, they will dwindle. That'll automatically happen if they're actually trying to do real, true bhakti. And if they're also really trying to associate with pure devotees of Bhagavan, then the seedling of the undeveloped bhakti will appear in their hearts in the form of faith. So unless they are in possession of such faith, no one can understand the subtle difference between karma yoga and bhakti. Now we should understand that if someone thinks that bhakti is simply another form of karma, then he won't be able to relish the transcendental sentiments of unalloyed devotion in his heart. The difference between bitter and sweet, it can be distinguished only by tasting them, not by reasoning. So after actually tasting them, then it becomes much easier to consider and then determine which of them is superior, bitter or sweet. So those who are inclined towards karma yoga, they sometimes dance, they tremble, they shed tears while chanting the holy name. Do we not see that? Yes, we see it. Yes, but all of this is a mere reflection of bhakti, not Shuddha bhakti. It is the result of their previous good fortune of having associated with devotees, as described in the verses quoted previously, such as Daivat Sad Bhakta Sangena. Their trembling, their shedding of tears are just symptoms produced by sensual pleasure, and they are considered mere reflections, pratibimba only. So at such times they are either immersed in thoughts of heavenly pleasure, or they are absorbed in an imaginary ocean of the pleasure derived from liberation. This is pratibimba bhakti abhas. So, I'm just reading this. We won't be able to finish, but we're more than halfway through, but we'll finish in the next class. But I'm reading, because there are 3 types of pratibimba bhakti abhas. That's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur has been explaining. So we're going to now read the 3rd type. He's explaining the 3rd type, that in the present times, we can easily point out, in the present times. So what present times was this? When he was on the planet. And he's noticing, he can easily point out, Viparita Vastu Bhakti Buddhi Janita Bhakti Abhas. This is produced by the visualization of bhakti in activities that are actually opposed to bhakti. Visualizing bhakti in the activities that are actually opposed to bhakti, which is prevalent in the Pancha Upasana and in the Ishvara Pranidhan, concentration upon the Supersoul within the yoga process. Those known as Pancha Upasanas, you know Pancha Upasana? 5 gods that are worshipped. Those known as Pancha Upasana, they consider that there are 5 sampradayas. The Shaiva, worshippers of Shiva; Shakta, worshippers of Durga; Ganapatya, worshippers of Ganesh; Shauda, worshippers of Surya; and Vaishnava, worshippers of Vishnu. All 5 are followers of impersonalism. All 5. Even the worshippers of Vishnu in the Panchopasana, they're impersonalists. Now the Vaishnava line that is mentioned here, it is not a Vaishnava line that follows the genuine principles of bhakti. The 4 genuine Vaishnava sampradayas, they are not included within the Vaishnava Panchopasana sampradaya mentioned here. Sri Ramanujacharya, Sri Madhvacharya, Sri Vishnu Swami, and Sri Nimbaditya, they are the 4 acharyas of the 4 bona fide sampradayas of unalloyed devotion that are described in the verse Sri Brahma Rudra Sanakash Chatvara Sampradayana. That means, to indicate these 4 sampradayas, it is said in the scriptures, Sampradaya Vihina Ye Mantraste Nishvalamata, which means mantras that are not accepted from the 4 bona fide sampradayas, they'll yield no results. Now the Vaishnavas who belong to the Panchopasana section, they're basically impersonalists. They're not pure devotees. All the Pancha Upasakas, they believe that the murtis of their 5 worshipful deity, they're ultimately imaginary. That's what they believe. It's just imaginary forms. In other words, they believe that Brahman has no form, and that these forms are conceived only as a convenience for worship while still in the bodily conception of life. And according to their concept, when one's worship becomes perfect, then he merges into impersonal Brahman, and the devotion he offered to those imaginary murtis, whom he considers to be the supreme, it is not eternal. This activity is simply Jnana Vrita Bhakti Abhas. That means devotion that is covered by impersonal knowledge. This activity is simply one cannot attain unalloyed devotion as long as he believes such semblance of devotion to be real bhakti. That's why it's hard to convert Hindus. Not easy. So one cannot attain unalloyed devotion as long as he believes such semblance of devotion to be real bhakti. If symptoms of bhakti, such as trembling and the profuse shedding of tears, are detected in the performers of this type of bhakti abhas, they should be taken only as symptoms produced by sensual pleasure and a mere reflection, a pratibimba of the genuine symptoms. So, just as the Pancha Upasakas display a semblance of devotion towards their imaginary deities of demigods, so similarly, yogis also display trembling and shedding of tears toward their imaginary deity of the Supersoul. These are all examples of Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas. The concept that Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas will gradually develop and ultimately it will transform into unalloyed devotion is totally false. Because by rejecting impersonal meditation and the benefits sought from fruitive activities, the existence of this semblance of devotion totally vanishes. Understand this? I'll read this again. The concept that pratibimba bhakti abhas, that this will gradually, lost my place. Yeah, that this pratibimba bhakti abhas will gradually develop, and it will ultimately transform into unalloyed devotion. This concept is totally false. Why? Why is it totally false? Because by rejecting impersonal meditation and also the benefits sought from fruitive activities, by rejecting that, then the existence of this semblance of devotion, it totally vanishes. There remains no possibility of those practicing pratibimba bhakti abhas actually being benefited unless they completely purify their consciousness from its very root. So the impersonalists, such as the four Kumaras and the topmost Jnani Shukadev Goswami, they could only begin new and more exalted lives when they completely renounced their previous faiths and they accepted the path of bhakti. So by the strength of their new exalted lives, they achieved the status of our acharyas. Now regarding bhakti, pratibimba bhakti abhas, Rupa Goswami says the following. Vimukta kila tarsharya muktar api vimrigyate ya krishne nati gopyashu bhajadbhyo pi nadiyate sa bhukti mukti kamat vach chudham bhaktim akurvatam hridaye sambhavatyesham katam bhagavati rati. So Rupa Goswami is telling here, how is it possible for the rare Bhagavad Rati, this ecstatic emotion for Bhagavan that appears in the stage of Bhav, how is it possible to appear in the hearts of those desiring material sense gratification and impersonal liberation when such Rati is being eagerly sought after by even liberated souls who have completely renounced all varieties of material desires? And it is not easily granted by Sri Krishna to those engaged in his exclusive bhajan. So if it's not available even to these exalted personnel, how is it going to be available in the hearts of those desiring material sense gratification and impersonal liberation? Very simple logic. And Krishna doesn't even award it to those exalted personalities. So it is imperative to mention here that those who consider the pleasure derived from illicit association with women and also taking intoxication to be love of God are themselves polluted, and they may pollute others also. Did we catch that? How prominent is that? But Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it was already there hundreds of years ago. So, those persons who consider that this pleasure derived from illicit association with women and taking intoxication to be love of God, they are themselves polluted, and they may pollute others also. So now he has covered the three types of pratibimba bhakti abhas. We're not going to read the section on chaya bhakti abhas, which will complete this article. We'll read that on Tuesday. But it's much shorter than the pratibimba bhakti abhas. So we'll complete our discussion here. Gaur Prem Anande, Hari Hari Bol, Shri Bhakti-vinod Thakur ki jai, Shri Bhakti-tattva-viveka ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Shri Nitai Gaur Prem Anande Hari Hari Bo. Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments? How was your Russian comprehension of this class that we had today? Could you follow? Could you follow? Huh? Oh, so you're not listening to the Russian translation? And you're also not listening? Oh, that's a Russian translation of the Bhakti-tattva-viveka book? Yeah, okay. Okay.
It's very difficult movie. Maybe sometimes I think people should read 3-4 times.
Well, of course. Of course. And even by reading, it won't be understandable to them. Even if they read it 3-4 times, they have to be qualified. Not just anybody can understand this topic. That's what we just heard again and again and again. You know? But it is worth a discussion because those who are representing to the world the pathway of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, some of those persons are not familiar. They are not comprehending all these subtle points that determines what is bhakti and what is bhakti abhas and what is bhakti pratibimba bhakti abhas, all of that. But nevertheless, the simple chanting of the holy names, massive Nam Samkirtan can go on, despite all of these impurities and misconceptions and everything. And the individual jivas who will gradually, according to their sukriti and samskaras from previous lives, those individual jivas, they'll become attracted, and then they'll also engage themselves accordingly through sadhu sangha, and gradually they can become purified. So we should understand that even though that chanting is not pure chanting, right? By persons who harbor all of these. And there are a lot of persons in various institutions who are chanting quite far removed from pure chanting. But nevertheless, that wasn't a consideration in the beginning stages of devotion, was it? Did Prabhupada consider that? Not at all. But he simply promoted the pure chanting because he himself is the pure devotee. And those who associated with him were elevated and purified. And then gradually they could start to enter into the pathway of bhakti. But if, as we just read, that which is not bhakti becomes promoted as bhakti, then this pollutes everything. It pollutes everything. So we really would have to analyze and take apart what we heard Bhaktivinoda Thakur express today. We'd have to very carefully, step by step, analyze it and also apply it to what we observe in the present day. And then it becomes more understandable. But we don't have time to do that. And this is not the forum for doing that. We're reading the words of the Acharya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare Jai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Jai Srimati Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Om Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasya cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Vansha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. All glory to the assembled devotees.